Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Friday night show, the Asea 5, where we come to you every week with the regulars. You probably know Jim and Ann Glenn from San Antonio. Jim is our money man, and Ann is our nutritional specialist and also physical education. Or, well, you do a lot of physical training. Dr. Lee Osler, he is our dentist, who is also one of the founding members of AOSH, the American Academy for Oral Systemic Health. So he teaches other dentists and physicians and all about the connection between oral health and systemic health, which is amazing. I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, currently in Charleston, South Carolina, helping my sister recover from COVID pneumonia. She's doing great. She turned around as soon as I got here and got released from quarantine. So we've been having a great time, and I escaped all of that, everything that's going on in Texas, which was a blessing for sure. And we are so blessed tonight to have Dr. Stan Gardner with us. He is the chairman. As you know, Dr. Lee and I are both on the Asea Medical Professionals Board, and Dr. Gardner is our chairman. He is also a family practitioner. He's boarded in family practice, age management, regenerative medicine, certified in nutrition, still practicing and seeing patients, also teaching corporations how they can keep their clients and their employees healthy, and a speaker from all over the world. So he has a wealth of knowledge, and he's been with Asea for quite some time. We're very thankful and blessed to have him. Dr. Gardner, if you wouldn't mind joining us and kind of giving us a little bit more, that's quite a background you have. So you went from traditional medicine into more of an integrative practice. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, I spent 20 years in conventional medicine. I actually was trained as a pediatrician initially, spent 9 years as a general pediatrician, and then got interested in the developmental pediatrics of ADHD, learning disabilities, that soft neurological stuff, and moved to Billings, Montana, spent 9 years doing that. Got disenchanted with the practice of conventional medicine, looked around for what the options were, got involved in a network marketing company that I thoroughly enjoyed, and then found a functional medicine practice that was willing to kind of do on-the-job training. I had some training in energy medicine, an art called Jin Shin Jitsu, which is akin to acupuncture, only no needles. And so I brought that energy medicine into that functional medicine practice. And when you transition from conventional medicine to functional medicine, it is a major learning curve. And I do remember the day 2 years after I was in Cleveland in this functional medicine, it was preventive medicine in Cleveland. We typically had lunches together once or twice a week and would just talk about things. And one of the doctors turned to me 2 years later and said, "You're still thinking like a conventional medicine doctor." And I said, "No, I'm not." But the transition from conventional medicine into a true functional medicine, naturopathic practice is quite a leap and a jump. But now I've got 20 years in functional medicine, and I'm involved in what is probably most appropriately called integrative medicine, with trying to match the best of functional medicine and conventional medicine. But my love and my passion is in the field of functional medicine. So that's what I practice now. When I shifted from the developmental pediatrics, and I saw a lot of adults because I got trained also in adult ADHD, which isn't much different than child ADHD, but there are some nuances that I took some training in. When I jumped into functional medicine in Cleveland, 90% of my practice was adults. So I not only had to learn functional medicine and the philosophies behind that, but picked up a whole new practice of basically family practice of adult medicine. And the learning curve was just huge, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then 10 years later, moved here to Utah, where I continue to practice functional medicine, and I continue to be involved in two practices. One is a specialty clinic where we specialize really in Lyme and mold illnesses. And I did get some certification training with the dementia Alzheimer's practice, and then did the training with Dr. Gordon in traumatic brain injury. So I certainly have a neurologic interest. And then, of course, just do what functional medicine does with hormones. And the practice really is focusing on supplements and nutrients and getting away from drugs and surgery as much as possible. And that's what I do now.
That's fantastic. In fact, we had somebody is answering what functional medicine is, but if you don't mind just kind of giving a brief description of what functional and integrative medicine, regenerative medicine, what they are and kind of how they differ, what's the crux of each one?
The philosophy of conventional medicine is really to use drugs in surgery, and drugs basically control the body. What we work with in functional medicine is we work with the physiology of the body, trying to help the body recover so that the body can heal itself. The philosophies behind conventional medicine is that we will use drugs that actually control the body. We will control your blood pressure. We will control your brain. We do not, in the practice of conventional medicine, we are controlling symptoms. There's more of an emphasis on the symptom rather than on the cause. In functional medicine, we are very much focused on the cause. And we find that if we can focus on the cause and we eliminate the cause, then we don't even have to treat the symptoms because the body then heals itself, and we don't have to worry about that. Other differences, we have some tools in our toolbox that are not part of conventional medicine. I was trained with hyperbaric oxygen, which has a tremendous effect on the brain and with brain injuries. Conventional medicine does use hyperbaric oxygen, but they really just use it for bends, although there are some wound clinics that are now starting to use it in that setting.
Those are the two things that I was familiar with. And
yeah, we do a lot of chelation therapy, trying to get toxins out of people, because that's very much a source of illness. A lot of IVs, glutathione, nutritional IVs with high dose vitamin C. In fact, those of you on the call will be interested that when we take vitamin C orally, it functions as an antioxidant in our body. But when we take IV vitamin C, where we're talking about 8, 10, 20, or 50 grams of vitamin C taken over a 30-minute to a 3-hour period of time, those high doses of vitamin C actually convert in the body into hydrogen peroxide and into oxidative molecules that actually kill viruses, kill bacteria, kill cells that rogue cells. And so we just have a lot of different tools that we're excited to use.
That's fabulous. And that kind of leads us right into Asea. And I'm going to make a disclaimer. Asea, redox signaling molecules, which is what we are all involved in here. They are not a medical product. They're not meant to treat, cure, diagnose anything. That's not our role. We are medical professionals because we see the power of this, just like Dr. Stan was talking about. We're tapping into the body's innate ability to heal itself. And we have fewer of these molecules as we age. And by actually supplementing them, we're increasing the volume of them in our body, in our cells, improving the cell signaling so that the cells are talking to each other much more clearly. It also helps with activating antioxidants and turning on special genes, beneficial genes. And so this is another tool in our toolbox or arrow in our quiver that we can use. And Dr. Stan, you're actually using this in your practice. Is that correct?
When I got into Asea, let me just mention how I got into Asea. One of the doctors in Cleveland really felt that oxidation, redox signaling, was at the core, oxidative stress really is at the core of disease. And he kind of was a specialist in this oxidation. He called it redox molecules. And for 9 years while I was there, we talked about this regularly over lunch. Then my wife and I, we moved to Utah. Our children are in Utah, so we the first opportunity that we had to move back, we did. And before our boxes were unpacked, Trish Winkler came to our home and needed a place to stay. And because there were some meetings in Salt Lake City, this was the headquarters of Asea, and she introduced Asea to us. I was not interested. I mean, we were still unloading boxes and unpacking and had no interest in looking at something new. And but then when she said this is redox signaling, a light went off. I said, redox signaling? Well, I know all about that. If this is as good as what you say it is, this is the greatest thing on the planet. So my wife and I looked at it, and lo and behold, it was the greatest thing on the planet. And talk about adding a tool in the toolbox to help people from a functional medicine standpoint, to help get them healthy, stimulate the cells to start talking to each other and working with each other. And this was great. So the first patient that I really tried this on, this was before we had the Renew 28, which is the skin product. We were using a spray bottle, and I had this patient come into my office who had for 6 months or a year had this ugly sore on her knee that had been treated with antibiotics and treated with everything conventional medicine. And then she decided to see me. And I said, well, try spraying this on that. And within, I believe it was 2 weeks. I mean, she took pictures of this. This was now 9 years ago, so the details have long since left me. But it was kind of miraculous to watch something that had been on her skin for months with no resolution to be totally resolved within 2 or 3 weeks. And basically, it's my belief that the signaling molecules, the redox molecules that we find in Asea, were starting to communicate, open up lines of communication so that the skin and the tissue underneath could start to become more healthy. That was kind of my introduction.
That's fabulous. And of course, having Trish there, you know, who can resist Trish? So that's fantastic. Jim or Lee, feel free to jump in here if you have any questions.
Well, if you don't mind, Dr. Gardner, if you could explain, there's a lot of people that are going to watch this that have never heard of redox signaling molecules. How do you explain it? I'm not medical. How would you explain it to me if I'm one of your new patients? What this is, what does it do? And why is it made from salt water?
Salt water is the ingredients that the redox molecules come from. And these redox molecules are signaling molecules. Now, when you get into the world of redox, 30, 40 years ago, we were introduced to a concept called antioxidants. And because what we were learning is that there are various things that cause us to increase our oxidation. And at high doses, these oxidants are very harmful to the body. And antioxidants were introduced to try to solve this oxidation, this over-oxidation problem. And basically what happens is oxidation are molecules in the body that are looking for an electron. As soon as they find the electron, then they stop doing the damage that they're doing. So basically redox, or the molecules that are in Asea that are made from salt and from water, and this is a patented process, electrolysis, where there's an anode and a cathode, and they have temperature regulation and they have dilution regulation, and this process where at the end we have this bottle of Asea. And basically the redox molecules are passing electrons from one molecule to another. And this passage of electrons is actually an energetic charge that signals certain reactions, certain responses in the body. So redox really is an electron transfer or an energy transfer that has the capability of signaling a response in the body. The molecules that are in Asea are molecules that we call reactive oxygen species, because hydrogen, water is hydrogen dioxide or dihydrogen oxide. So oxygen is the reactive molecule in the molecules that are in Asea, the redox molecules that are in Asea. So we know that these molecules, because of the signaling properties, are protecting the cell, rejuvenating the cell, and keeping the cells in a state of what we call homeostasis, or balance in the cells so that they can function optimally.
Awesome. Now, when you were first introduced to redox, and you had known about redox, you had talked with your colleague back in Cleveland, how shocked were you to realize that they have these molecules stabilized, which, if I'm not mistaken, the medical community says, frankly, what we have is impossible. So were you rather surprised that somebody had actually stabilized these molecules?
Well, in the body, these reactive molecules react very quickly. It's like a 10,000th of a second. They are made in the body, they are native to the body, and they immediately do their reactivity, signaling what they're supposed to signal, and they immediately become reduced so that they no longer are in that state, that active state that triggers it. So the body is continually producing these oxidant molecules, or these signaling molecules, these redox molecules that are exchanging electrons back and forth and doing the signaling that the body needs to do. So this is taking place millions of times a second inside our bodies. I had never been aware that there is a product, that it was even possible to make a product that would have these in solution so we could take these signaling molecules into our body. I wasn't aware that it even existed.
So when you started on the product, did you start with just the 4 ounces? That's all y'all knew back then? 4 ounces, 2 ounces twice a day?
2 ounces twice a day. And I put my brother on it, and I put a bunch of people on it. Now, let me just give one of the experiences I had with it early on. Again, this is early on. I was in our basement. We had this little playhouse for the kids. It had a little window in it, and it was fun. It was, up, you went up 6 of those little tiny stairs. So it was up there about 4 feet, 5 feet in the air. And I was concerned that one of the little kids playing in the playhouse would fall out of the window onto the concrete floor. And so I was putting up a bar. This is a wooden bar. I found it had lots of fun colors in it, so it really matched the room. And so I was putting the bar up, but the wood was harder than I wanted it to be. And so I had to use both hands to get the drill to go into the wood. And so I got that in on the one side, but the other side, you can't just drill it in. You have to hold it there until you drill it in. But I was holding it and pushing as hard as I could because this was a hard wood. And all of a sudden the drill went off and went right through my ring finger. And it bounced off the bone and it was just totally exposed. And I looked at it, and this is Saturday morning. And of course, Saturday's the only day when you work that you can get anything done. So I wasn't going to let a little thing like that get in my way of work. So I went and wrapped it in a little Kleenex and then put some duct tape around it. And then I just continued working the day. This is Saturday. And then Sunday came around and I have this big thing on my finger and I go to church and I do my Sunday things. And then Sunday night, I think, it's now been 36 hours. I wonder how that looks. Doctors are seriously the absolute worst patients. So I open this thing up and it's red, swollen, and it stinks. I'm thinking, whoa, I think I made a mistake. And I'm thinking about what antibiotic I better put myself on because this is infected, swollen. This is not what I wanted it to be. And then I thought, wow, this would be a good test for Asea. So I get out the Asea bottle and the spray bottle, and I just start spraying that thing. And I sprayed it, I don't know, probably 20 times that night because before I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning and the swelling and redness was way better. And of course, it wasn't as gaping as much because it wasn't as swollen. And I just kept spraying that. And the signaling molecules signaled this to improve, to get healthy faster than I had. I was a pediatrician. I sewed up kids. Kids heal lots faster. They're little cuts and sores. We suture them up and we take those out 5 days later, 7 days later, and we look at it and we maybe put some, Band-Aid there to keep it together so it doesn't separate. But here I am 3 or 4 days later looking at this huge thing, and it's as good as those kids were at 7 days. And I'm thinking, this is seriously the most incredible solution on the planet. And what it's doing is it's just supplying these signaling molecules that are permitting the body to start the process of getting healthy.
That's awesome.
How amazing does that sound? We share this all the time, doctor, with people, Maureen and Lee, and I know you do as well. And so many people just come back and say, guys, this just sounds crazy. As Jerry White would say, this is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. Because I had a similar experience with my hand. I got bit by a dog and it put a huge gash on the top of my hand. And I can hardly see the scar now. But people just seem to have a very difficult time in believing that a saltwater-based product can do this. What would you say to those skeptics out there right now that are listening?
Well, you have to try the product. The science is there, but what the science that us medical people would really like, we're never going to do because this is a supplement. And all we can use a supplement for, the FDA and the FTC has told us what we can say about supplements and what we can study about supplements. And that is, all we can do is take a healthy person and make them more healthy. Or take a person that's not really healthy and make them healthy. But technically, we can't take a supplement in the FDA, FTC world today and use it in a medical condition. So we can't do any research to prove the value of this product in the world of medicine. So all we do is, let's see what it does for you. You've got to try it. There is good research. If you want to understand redox signaling and the power of the signaling molecules, then there is tons of places to go. PubMed, and there's study after study. There's thousands, tens of thousands of articles on redox signaling. There is societies that are actually being formed, and there is departments in medical schools of redox signaling or redox departments, because this science is exploding.
Right.
And we are the only redox signaling molecules, reactive oxygen species on the planet that can lay claim to redox molecules, redox signaling molecules. It's a very exciting place to be.
Yeah.
I'd like to echo that and maybe make a comment and ask you a question. You were talking about the properties and principles of functional medicine and how that differs from traditional or conventional medicine. And I think that is a paradigm that can get in the way of a lot of people, including health professionals, in terms of that concept. And one of the phrases I like is that we have things, you know, that in this world that act, and we have things that act upon. And I think that that's a real descriptive way of describing the differences. And what we're trying to do is to activate the inner doctor inside of us that can do its own healing if we provide it with the right signaling, the right energy, and the right nutrients. In your descriptions of that, you know, the basic creation of those redox molecules from reactive oxygen species produced by mainly the mitochondria. Take us into the next step, if you would, into those gene pathways that kind of goes sequentially into the next steps. Like, this is what actually instructs the cell what to do and how to do it. And I know we've got, you talked about the lack of, you know, studies and science and so forth specifically on this, but we do have a gene study that was done. Could you speak to that gene study and what it was that it demonstrates, or what it is that it demonstrates, and why that's profound for us to recognize?
Part of the research that was done is they looked at, I can't remember how many genes, probably 15 or 20 different genes. And they gave Asea to find out what Asea would do, what these signaling molecules would do in these certain genes. And they discovered that there were 5 of those genes that Asea actually had a very positive effect on. And one of those genes, it triggered 15 different pathways. And I don't remember those pathways, but I do remember that some of the genes were part of the heart and vascular system and the elasticity in the blood vessels. Part of it had to do with the GI tract, and part of it had to do with hormones, possibly at the receptor level. That's what I imagine, making the hormones that are there more reactive. So there were 5 different areas that were affected. So one of the things we know that this does is it triggers genes genes trigger a response, and that response is measurable and positive.
So what does it mean when a gene is expressed in a more positive manner? I mean, the person out there maybe who, I know the health professionals on will understand that, but to everybody else, what does it mean when a gene is more expressible?
Well, in order for a gene to be expressed, there has to be some kind of trigger that opens up the DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid, and that opening up of this helix permits the helix to be duplicated with RNA. RNA is ribonucleic acid, and so this ribonucleic acid can actually come in and duplicate that strand, and that strand that is now open has been duplicated, and now that mRNA takes that duplicated piece and goes to another part of the cell where it reads that and will make something, will do a response, will make a hormone, will make a stimulate production of something. Some kind of response is what the genes do. Now we have genes, the hard genes that are programmed into us are these 23 chromosomes, and because of those genes, we have black hair, red hair, blonde hair, depending on what the parents and what the genes. We are tall, we are short. All of these things are run by genes, but the vast majority of the genes that we really have are triggered by signaling molecules, and a lot of these come from the foods we eat. When we eat bad foods, we have negative genes that are being triggered and we get sick. If we have good nutrients, good food, good signaling molecules like that are in Asea, they will trigger certain other genes that actually assist us in our health process.
So as a functional medicine specialist, when you were back in Cleveland studying all those years, these core principles of what really is redox signaling, you were back in, I like to call the expressions connecting the dots. You were taking redox biology principles and finding application for them in the field of medicine as well as life. When you were doing that, what was the, back then they didn't have the gene study, but you understood those basic principles. Was that what you were talking about earlier?
Well, we didn't have Asea in Cleveland.
Yeah. But you had other ways of activating redox signaling.
Well, part of functional medicine is providing the nutrients and supplying the good food, the lack of toxins, the lack of chemicals that trigger in a negative way. So our goal in Cleveland was, how can we build the redox system so that it signals in a positive way? And we did that with nutrients, we did that with supplements, we did that with good food, real food. And we found, obviously, the patients that came in and they were on the standard American diet, the SAD diet with lots of sugar and lots of chemicals and fast food, that they basically came in unhealthy. And we would change their diet, get them on some supplements that gave them the nutrients they needed. And all of a sudden, about 80% of their problems, if they came into our office, this is what we basically saw. People would come in, they would have a long list of 20 problems. And if they're on the standard American diet and they're not taking care of themselves, the first visit is, you need to be on these supplements. You need to get rid of all the bad food. These are the good foods you need to do. And we're going to get some lab, and we're going to see you back in a month. And when they come back in a month, 80% of all those problems have disappeared. and we're only left with the 20% to start working with other things. So it really is the food and the nutrients that are also signaling molecules and are affecting genes and affecting positive genes. And I think what we're really doing with Asea is just adding another layer of signaling genes to get signaling molecules to get these genes to function appropriately.
I love that. You know, if we can talk, what you're really talking about, Stan, is epigenetics. You know, and you kind of alluded to that before with the, you know, the different genes that we have and the hair color and the static genes. And now knowing that we can influence these genes by lifestyle, and also now with the gene study, we know we can influence them by taking redox signaling molecules as well. Can you talk a little bit about the different things you're talking about? Supplementation to help people have a better quality of health and lifestyle. You know, we know hydration, sleep, all of these different things impact it. And one of the things our company realized is that the more good you can do for yourself, the more impact you're going to have from supplementing the redox molecules. And so they have brought in a supplement line, the VIA line, that we're all familiar with, and most of us take it. And I would love for you as a nutritionist, being a specialist in that, and being a functional medical doctor who has been prescribing that or recommending that for ages. Can you talk a little bit about our line and why you think these are important products?
I took a multivitamin. Well, first of all, I never took a multivitamin when I was in conventional medicine. When I moved to Cleveland and learned all these principles, I cleaned up my diet. I started taking supplements and I felt better. I mean, you just do feel better. I discovered early on that I didn't like taking pills, including supplements. And I started feeling better and got more energy, and mood was a little bit better, and lots of things in my life were better, but I didn't like taking so many supplements. So I'd stopped taking them for a few days. And within just 2 or 3 days, I could tell that things were deteriorating. And I thought, oh, I've got to be able to, my body should be able to maintain these levels of nutrients, and I shouldn't have to take them every day. And so I'd take them for 3 months and 4 months. And these were not the ones from Asea. This is what I was learning in Cleveland. And 3 months later, I'd get tired of taking all these supplements, and I'd stop taking them, and my energy would go down. So this is crazy. So I'd take them back again, and after about 5 years of doing this, I discovered that it took then a week or two before my energy dropped, and not just a day or two. But so I knew I was getting better, but I was always on synthetic or the supplements. And I've loved the synthetic supplements. My heart has always told me that plant-based nutrients, especially from an energetic standpoint, because I come in with a little bit of an energetic background. I'm not a homeopathic physician. I would love to know what homeopaths know, but I certainly play with homeopathic products because they work, even though I may not fully understand how they work when you have 0 molecules in the product of the original product. But I believe that indeed there is an energetic frequency that's passed on. And I think the plants have a better chance of actually supplying the energetic component of supplements. But I never really learned that in Cleveland, and I came here to Utah and set up my own practice. And so I took the regular supplements that I've given all my patients for years, and I felt good on them. And I did discover that because I work out 2 hours a day playing pickleball, 5 days a week, competitive pickleball, that I had to be very careful with my calcium and magnesium intake, or I would have cramping, especially at night. And if I did, then I'd get up, get rid of the cramp, take some extra magnesium in the middle of the night, go back to bed. And I found that I was doing this not on a regular basis, but occasionally. When I shifted to the plant-based product, and I looked at the ingredient list, and of course the ingredient list for the B vitamins is way less than the product I was taking. I looked at all the ingredients and the calcium and the magnesium was way less. And so I took the same amount of magnesium and calcium that I was taking with the other product, and I discovered very soon that I wasn't cramping at night. There is something in these plant-based supplement line that is better than anything I had used for the previous 10 plus years in the synthetic line of supplements. I know they work. And part of the reason I never shifted over is because the research that is done on supplements and on vitamins and minerals are done with synthetic products and not with products that are plant-based. And I've had trouble finding really solid scientific data to support the plant-based products. But my personal experience with the multivitamin Asea, even though the milligrams are way less of each of the individual products in there, the vitamins and the minerals, they actually work better for me in my nighttime cramping. So I love them.
Well, and the vitamin line we have, we teach all about absorption. So you're able to get the nutrients that you need that people are lacking in the typical Western diet. And so the 4 we have are exceptional with the proprietary sources that are in there that make it unique to other lines. And they also synergetically work with Redox. So they're going to work better than the stuff that's out there. Anne Louise Gittleman says that, our DNA does not need to be our destiny. And so if you can marry our Via line with Redox, then you're going to have all the cellular health that your body needs to let the body do all the work. Now, I love Renew 28 once it came out, 6 years ago, and we had just gotten in 5.5 years. So I think maybe it was closer to 6.5, but it's just neat how, like for Jim, he mentioned his injury, how quickly, we sprayed it, but when we use the serum and then the Renew 28 regularly, because it has twice as much of the concentration of the oral, his healing was just so much faster. And that's what's so neat about people who are new. If you try the Renew 28 on anybody, you can see signaling in just literally a matter of minutes. How much have you used of the Renew 28 as far as, for people you're introducing it to? I'm sure you were excited when it came out. Maybe you can share a little bit about those, how those work.
Yeah, in my practice of functional medicine, I think one of the most discouraging pieces was skin things that didn't get better with just what I was doing. I have discovered that fish oils at high doses, 5 grams a day instead of the 1 or 2 grams that most people take, is excellent for the skin and for a lot of skin conditions. But when Renew 28 came out, it really was the go-to product for everything skin related.
Right.
And in fact, a lot of the joint related things. Technically, the research that was done showed that it only penetrates the skin, the epidermis, and doesn't go deeper than that. But clinically, it certainly goes deeper than that. It has to be affecting deep tissue. So yeah, that Renew 28 really was a game changer for the skin. Of course, we can't talk about disease of the skin or disease of anything, but it sure got these things that looked like diseases a whole lot better, got them healthy, And that's the purpose of the product. The whole supplement line is to get people healthy. And it definitely does that from a skin standpoint.
So that's awesome.
Everybody's favorite.
Yep.
It
Yep.
is. I mean, I did, I keep helping my kids do their construction. So we were putting in the framing into the concrete floor and had the cement gun. And I don't know what happened to that gun, but all of a sudden it just pinched my little finger. Of course, you can't see it now because it's almost, we're not supposed to use the term healed because supplements can't heal anything, but it sure made it more healthy. It just totally popped like a big blood blister. And it most blood blisters are underneath the skin, but this tightened it so much that the whole skin broke open. And I'm, doing this in the air. And then, of course, just like I did 10 years ago with the other finger, I started working back on putting the framing, and all of a sudden it's bleeding all over. So then I had to go find the paper towel again to put on it so it stopped the bleeding, and kept working, of course.
Did you pull out the duct tape?
Well, I didn't have any duct tape, so all I could do was hold that paper towel with my thumb so I could keep framing.
Yeah,
Hey, I got plenty if you need some, okay?
He loves
Yeah, I got plenty in my house too. This is a house that my son bought, and they gutted the whole thing and started all over again. They didn't have any tape or anything there. So I just held it. When I got home, then I looked at it, and of course, then it was nothing but Asea to help with the the healthy signaling, so that it attracts the molecules of the body. So the immune system comes in, the immune system works better, and it just does very nicely. And tomorrow will be 2 weeks.
Wow.
And you really can't see it, I don't think.
no,
There's
a little shadow, but
Hey, Dr. Gardner,
scab left.
our time is flying by as usual. A couple things, if you don't mind. Can you speak to people that get on Asea and they expect rapid results? How long does it take the body to start the repair process? How much time should someone give this? Because I say it's a life choice. It's not something you're going to do to get better and then quit, right? You need to keep using it. But how would you explain, well, why should I stay on it? And what if I don't feel it, in the first whatever period of time?
Part of the difficulty that we have in Asea is we get so passionate about these miraculous stories and experiences that people have that we share the miracles of people that happen really quickly, and then everybody expects to have that same thing happen to them.
Exactly.
Well, these are signaling molecules. These signaling molecules are ingested. They are dilute signaling molecules in Asea. We swallow it, it gets into the stomach. The stomach starts absorbing it. The absorption of that basically means that it's getting into the bloodstream. Well, the bloodstream has 5 liters of blood, and it's going to take these diluted molecules throughout the whole body, and it's going to cause signaling. But some of that signaling takes time. Some of us actually have real problems that have been with us for years, and we want a fix yesterday.
Right.
But some of those fixes, we have to stop the damage that's being done, that's been going on, and then the body has to combine the molecules that are going to start the immune system, the repair molecules to come in and start doing the repair. And that may take days, weeks, months before we actually have enough repair take place that something has changed in our body. So there clearly are people that are going to have to believe that because so many others, 9 out of 10 people are having these marvelous experiences, and I'm not, it is still a product that has these signaling molecules, and they are doing good in your body, even if you can't tell. Now, in the practice of medicine, they tell us, and I am convinced, that if something doesn't improve by 30%, you won't notice a difference. But if you want to notice a difference, you're going to take that little sheet that has that 10 questions, and you're going to rank it from 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, or however you rank it, all those different things. If you start with that, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, you think, this didn't do a bit of good. But you go back to that, and you don't look at what you did before, but you rank it exactly the same like you did. And then you open it up and you look at it and say, wow, I am a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a 10, 20%, maybe 30%, but they haven't noticed it, or it was so slow that they didn't see any change. And yet 6 months later, there's a lot of changes that other people have noticed that they can't notice.
Right.
So I think that the product itself speaks for itself.
Yeah. Well, and that's where we always tell folks to do before and after. I'm sorry, Maureen, go ahead.
I said we could give them power tools and they can have a.
Yeah, let me burn your hand with a cookie sheet. But that's the beauty of this, because if you take that before and after picture of your face and apply it correctly, twice a day to your face, and then retake your picture, in a month or two, you'll be absolutely shocked. We've had so many people that have noticed that difference, because if you can't remember what you looked like a month ago, right? So that's why taking the picture. Can you talk about being proactive? Well, hey, doc, I'm okay. I'm 63 years old. I ain't got nothing wrong with me. I don't need to do this. I'm doing great. Speak to those people, because God knows there's a lot of them.
Well, I'm old enough and have tried to convince people of enough things that I am done with convincing people of anything. My goal in my life is to attract the people that are looking for something that I have to offer.
Amen.
And I have just wasted too much time on trying to convince people against their will. So I don't do that anymore.
Excellent.
Now, if someone is a skeptic and they want to find out if this works, and they're a little disappointed that there's no peer-reviewed studies that are in the literature, and they think the science is pretty poor, then I just say, if you want to know, you try it on 5 people.
Yeah.
Do something.
Exactly.
You find out for yourself how this works. Even if it doesn't work in you, you try it on 5 people, you try it on 10 people, and you will be amazed at the stories you're going to accumulate, and then make your decision if this works or not.
Absolutely awesome.
And it is working. It just may be for some, it's slower than others, or they need to up their dose. And that's not a sales technique. That's just the body may be lacking those very molecules to get healed. And so maybe they need to try a couple weeks or a month of maybe 6 ounces. Jim and I do 10 to 12 ounces a day now. So we've seen what it's done by increasing.
And I think when we talked about the fact that it's very dilute in the water itself, in the Asea Redox product, and then we dilute it in the bloodstream, and then we take that dilution to the areas of the body that need it, that, you double your dose, you quadruple your dose, you're just plain going to get more signaling molecules getting to the areas that may need the help.
And even a child, you've worked in pediatrics. So a child, it's safe for any age, because these molecules are native to the body. So even a teenager or a young kid that's struggling, maybe they need the extra molecules too, but it'll be safe, right?
If some, yeah, safe, but all, I mean, these are native to the body. The body makes these molecules.
Exactly.
And that's part of what I like about functional medicine, is we're dealing with a lot of the products the body makes, so the body knows what to do with them, knows how to do that. I just, something came to mind that if you really want to know if this works, and I don't know if sunburn is a medical disease or if it's just an unhealthy condition. We'll call it
hurts.
An unhealthy condition.
It hurts.
But it's we want to take somebody with a sunburn, which is not a medical condition, and let's see if it works. So you put your Asea, your Renew 28, on half of it and leave it off of the other half, and I will guarantee you 100% of the time that then you can get your own testimony. You can get
that gives me a great marketing idea, but I'm not going to repeat it now because people will take me seriously. But get a heat lamp or get something that can give you a quick burn. We can do it real quick, guys.
Hey, for me, it was Cancun, you know, with
oh yeah, you have that picture.
Yeah.
We've got just a minute or two left here, and Dr. Stan, this has been really a great conversation. What is it? Why is it that this company took this in the direction that they did? Why isn't this a prescription medication? Why is this a supplement? And why, in your view, are they marketing this the way they are? Because that's a stumbling block for some people.
Right.
When Virtus purchased this product, he purchased it with the intent of perfecting it. It had $28 million of research done, but the company went under, and so the company decided to sell the assets, and he decided he was interested in this particular piece of the product, so he bought it. And he was able to, with help, figure out how to stabilize it better so it stayed in solution so it could actually be used. But they didn't know what it really was and what it would do. So they tried it on 20 or 40 people, and some of those people just had, again, these miraculous responses and almost life-saving. And then they came to the conclusion, yeah, this is great stuff. I'm sure that we can turn it around and flip it. So they talked to a pharmaceutical company, and they came and they looked at it, and they called back and forth and looked at the research that was available, and they said, yes, we want it. But we want it with a condition, because once we own it, then you can no longer use it. You can no longer give it to these people that are really using it and being helped by it, and perhaps even their lives are being saved. That was the sense that they got. And they kind of looked at each other and said, we can't. Our hearts are too much emotionally involved with these people. We can't do that. So they decided not to sell it. There was a couple of other concerns. The pharmaceutical industry is known for taking a really good product, especially a functional medicine product, and buying it and burying it. They don't want it to get out on the market because it's going to revolutionize things. The other thing, it would take 5 years for this product to get on the market. So they decided to go a different route. And the best route that they found for distribution of this product was to use the network marketing model. And that was kind of the start of this. And it is distributing the product.
Well, guys, Doctor, thank you. We got to have you back if you're okay with that.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
This was fun. Maureen, thank you. Lee, my beautiful wife. Next week, we have a great show. We've got, as I'm going to call them, double trouble. We've got Dr. Aaron Kaufman and Terry and Foster Malmed. So they want to come on together because they can battle back and forth. They love tag teaming. So that should be a really fun show. And then we've got David Silverman the week after that. So guys, please stick around. The amazing Dan Doyle and Stevie will be on right now. we turn the handle over to them. So Dr. Gardner, thank you so much for your time this
You're
evening.
welcome. And thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.